A very good afternoon to you. The date is 28th of December 2018, just 4 days to the end of the year. My name is Zainab Ismail. Welcome to NTV At One. Now, one person has died and 5 others are recuperating in hospital after they were beaten up by a mob in Likoni, Mombasa County. The 6 are suspected to be members of a gang operating in areas of Kisauni and Likoni, and police claim that they had planned to execute a robbery, saying that the investigations are ongoing. While condemning the incident, the officers also warned members of the public against taking law into their own hands. Detectives also say that one parent had reported to Nyali police station concerning the bad behavior of her son, only to find out today that he was part of the group that was beaten up by boda operators in Likoni. The alleged members of the gang were crossing from Likoni at 2 a.m. going to Congo when they were attacked.
Wakaaji wa Sendikumi katika Likoni waliweza kupata habari kwamba kuna vijana zaidi wa 6 ambayo walikuwa wamejificha kwa nyumba moja, na lengo lao ilikuwa ni kusababisha kutokuweko kwa usalama, na wenyewe waliweza kuchukua sheria mikononi mwao, wakaweza kupiga wale vijana, na polisi waliitwa baadaye mwendo wa saa 11:30 asubuhi. Kukimbia pale walipata washukiwa wamejeruhiwa vibaya sana, na wakakimbizwa katika hospitali yetu kuu ya Coast General Hospital. Na tunapoongea sasa, habari tunayopokea, mmoja wao ameweza kupoteza maisha yake.
All right, and we stay in the coastal town of Mombasa, where President Kenyatta is tonight expected to field questions from the media on the state of the nation. Among those who will be engaging the president is our very own Mac Masai. Mac, tell us, what do we expect this evening?
Just as you mentioned, there is going to be a sit-down at the State House here in Mombasa, and in about 6 hours we will be there having a setup, and that I'm talking about a battery of journalists. So it's different media houses represented, and the president will have a sit-down with the journalists to somewhat have something different this year. Normally on the 31st or thereabouts, you'd have the president give an end-of-year message where he will perhaps talk about the gains in the previous year and the hopes for the next year. But this year it's a bit different, probably borrowing a leaf from other houses on the hill, where they go one-on-one with media houses and journalists. And perhaps this afternoon, this evening will be a first of its kind, where we will go to different lengths and depths of questioning, the president on what he has done so far and what he hasn't done so far and what we can look forward to. There's a lot to talk about in the name of State of the Nation, but we've only been given 1 hour. Perhaps they'll probably extend it if they're watching. I hope they're watching this. But yes, at 7:30 to 8:30, you can expect that one-on-one, engagement with different media houses, and that is the president and different journalists. And you can watch it here on NTV from 7:30 to 8:30. So you can probably throw me a question, Zainab, something you want me to ask the president, but also the viewers, what they want us to engage the president on. They could throw that on our platforms, on social media. We'll be able to give that question live and direct to the president.
All right, Mac, well, let me think of a very interesting question you'll be probably asking the president later on. But of course, we'll be joining you for that conversation between the president and the media on a variety of issues on the state of the nation later on between 7:30 to 8:30. You want to stay tuned to NTV. But moving on. A suspect has been beaten to death, with 4 others managing to escape after the attempt to steal coffee at Kanake Coffee Factory in Kemodhai, Githunguri flopped. The 5 suspects are said to have raided the factory at around 3 in the morning before a group of farmers pounced on them. 4 of the suspects, who had been cornered by the farmers, later managed to escape the wrath of the irate farmers. 3 factory watchmen have been arrested following the incident and are currently being questioned by the police. The farmers are calling on the government to investigate the private coffee millers, accusing them of being the main consumers of stolen coffee from the area.
Sio mara ya kwanza. Hii inaweza kuwa mara ya pili ama mara ya tatu. Imeshaimbiwa miaka iliyopita. Na walinzi tuliongeza walinzi. Kwa hivyo tulikuwa tumekaa gangare lakini kwa bahati mbaya sijui kama walinzi walikuwa wanajua vile mambo inaendelea, kama hawajui hiyo siwezi elezea. Kufika pale kwa mto, karibu na mto, ndio tukaona kitu ya white imekaa kama ya white hapo karibu na mto. Kumulika hivi, wanaume 5 wakaamka mara moja, wakatoroka. Sasa wakati huo tukaanza tukapiga duru, kila kona hii factory watu wote wakasikia hiyo duru. Sasa kusikia hiyo duru, walicover every side of the factory.
Now, 3 men suspected of involvement in the murder of Dirib Gombo Chief George Godana have been charged with murder. Appearing before Mary Chief Magistrate Lucy Mbasi, the 3, Doyo Galgalo, Galmuguyo and Bokoyo Dida Boro, were charged with the offence of murder. It is reported that on the 16th of December, the 3, jointly with others who were not before court, murdered the Dirib Gombo Chief at Gar Karsa in Marsabit County. The accused were not allowed to take the plea as the court had no jurisdiction and have been ordered to appear before a High Court judge on 3rd of January next year. Meanwhile, the 3 are being detained at the Meru police station and are supposed to undergo a mental assessment. Godana was lynched by a mob as he attended a funeral at Garkarsa, Saku sub-county. Now, Standard Chartered Bank Kenya is set to have a new chief executive officer within the first quarter of 2019, with Kariuki Ngari appointed by the board and awaiting regulatory approval. Ngari will be replacing Lamin Manjang, who has also held the position since January 2014 and will be taking a new role as the bank's CEO for Nigeria and West Africa. Kariuki will be taking over at a time when the banking sector in Kenya is grappling with the effects of caps on lending rates, necessitating diversification of income streams from interest payment. Ngari takes over at a time when Standard Chartered Bank Kenya's bad loans more than doubled in the 12 months to September 2018, standing at 654 million shillings. And traders operating in Kianjai Market, together with residents from Tigania West Sub-County in Meru County, have decried the poor state of their open-air market. The traders and residents accuse county government of neglecting the market in that it does not have a roof, drainage, toilets or even water. They also claim that the market has turned into a garbage dump site, which is a serious health hazard for locals. The traders argue that it has become extremely difficult for them to operate during the rainy season, as the market is always flooded with water and mud.
Na shida nyingi sana. Hakuna choo, hakuna maji, si safi, haisafishwi soko. Tena hata kuna watu tunavyokuja tunarusha magari ikiwa chini hakuna wa kuokota.
Now, bright and needy Form 1 students will be supported by Murang'a County Government, will be identified by primary school committees for transparency. Murang'a Governor Mwangi Wairia and members of the County Assembly held a day-long closed-door meeting strategizing on how the 20 million shillings allocated for the Education Intervention Program will be shared among the bright and needy students. Wairia said community leaders, including the church, will be involved in the identification of the needy as part of enhancing transparency in the facilitation of students to acquire secondary school education. The kitty will only support those heading to boarding secondary schools at 25,000 shillings per child.
We have actually decided to support 1,000 kids in this county. That means an average of 30 kids per ward. Those are bright but needy children. We have created committees per every primary school so that they identify those kids for us.
And workers of Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company, Eldoret, have been awarded a salary increment after waiting for more than 10 years. The workers received a 16% pay rise and 50% increase in house allowance following the signing of a collective bargaining agreement between the Kenya County Government Workers Union and the Eldoret Management. KCGWE Secretary Robert Duba and Eldoret Managing Director Paul Murgor signed the CBA, and the new pay will be backdated backdated to July last year. Under the new pay, the lowest worker will receive 28,000 shillings, while the highest paid employee will receive about 99,000. The previous CBA that had a review for workers was in 2011.
Increase about 16%, 17% for salaries and wages. House allowance is close to almost 50% in some cases. And we had quite a very protracted negotiation on this matter. We take into account, of course, the company's position.
We are committed to implement everything that we have agreed in the CBA. And these were issues that were ranging between salaries, we had house allowance and other allowances.
All right, and in other news making headlines internationally, the Democratic Republic of Congo has expelled the European Union ambassador to the country ahead of Sunday's presidential elections. Ambassador Bart Overy was given 24 hours to leave the country. This comes as the country's security forces battled demonstrators who were protesting exclusion from the presidential election. Welcome Nobel Peace Prize laureate Denis Mukwege, the surgeon who helps women recover from the trauma of rape.
Congolese.
Elsewhere, at least 8 people were killed and more than 24 injured when a bus went off a Peruvian highway and turned over in a ravine in the early morning hours of Thursday. In Syria, heavy rain and flooding has created catastrophic conditions for those living in refugee camps in northern Syria. Now, this and much more news from across the globe. All right, and in other news making headlines in the world of sports, former National Olympic Committee of Kenya NOC chairman Charles Mukora has died. The former International Olympic Committee member died on Thursday evening. He was also a pioneer athletics coach who boasts of having coached some of Kenya's greatest athletes, among them Kenyan legends Naftali Temu and Kipchoge Keino, among many others. Mukora stepped down as NOC chairman in 1999 after he was accused of financial impropriety in awarding Salt Lake City the 2002 Winter Games and 2000 Summer Games to Sydney. Mukora took Kenya to the Mexico Olympic Games, where Temu panned the first ever Olympic gold medal, winning 10,000 meters race, with Kipchoge Keino winning gold in the 1,500 meters. Now, Felipe Anderson scored twice in 6 minutes as West Ham came from behind to beat Southampton at St Mary's Stadium and move up to 9th in the Premier League table. The hosts took the lead in scrappy fashion through Nathan Redmond, but West Ham were only behind. That is where we come to the close of our bulletin this hour. But remember, later on in the evening between 7:30 and 8:30, President Uhuru Kenyatta will be addressing the nation by fielding questions from journalists, and our very own Mark Masai is already in the coastal city of Mombasa and will be bringing us all the details of that meeting. You want to stay tuned. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Zainab Ismail. Good afternoon.